Cartoon Network, a legendary TV channel known for, you guessed it, cartoons. Adventure Time, Regular Show, Samurai Jack, Gumball, The Powerpuff Girls, and the list just goes on and on. Yes, Nickelodeon, I see you, and Lord knows you got some incredible shows. But I think we all know who wears the crown here. But what if I told you there was a time when Cartoon Network lost its way, and for some reason decided to make live-action shows? My God, you're called Cartoon Network. What were you thinking? First Canadian cartoons, and now this?
Oh, watch out, she's gonna blow! Ew!
Disgusting. But it's safe to say that 2009 was the worst year in Cartoon Network's history. Get this, 2009 was the only year in the company's entire history without a new animated series premiering whatsoever. Now, that might not seem as crazy by today's rock-bottom standards of shows getting canceled left and right, but at the time, this was a major issue for a TV channel that became synonymous with animated shows. So that begs the question, what led them to this lowly point? Well, they were going through a messy identity crisis, with the groundwork for all of this starting a few years earlier. Mostly, it was a string of bad luck that hit them all at once. First, there was the Aqua Teen Hunger Force bomb scare in Boston on January 31st, 2007. Yes, really. What was intended to be a marketing campaign for the Aqua Teen movie instead created a ton of controversy for Cartoon Network's parent company. And obviously, the objects in question were not really bombs, just a series of LED signs that were placed around areas of the city. I mean, have these guys seriously never used a light bright before? Hello? I have no idea, but one way or another, these signs were suspicious enough to cause an all-day police investigation. The backlash got so bad that Turner Broadcasting paid $2 million to the Boston police force for the trouble, as well as then head of Cartoon Network, Jim Samples, resigning in the scandal aftermath. I guess it really blew up in his face. He was replaced by Stuart Snyder, who made a mixed bag series of choices that noticeably affected Cartoon Network's lineup. And for every win, there was a loss. He greenlit Regular Show, hell yeah. But he also greenlit Problem Solvers, ew, yuck. But the two most controversial decisions from Snyder's tenure were axing Toonami in 2009 and creating CN Real, their first major venture into live-action programming. Cartoon Network made this pivot to compete with Nickelodeon and the Disney Channel. They both had thriving live-action series geared towards tweens and teenagers in the late 2000s and into the early 2010s. And yeah, if you tuned in back then, it was tough to ignore the teen-oriented media that was making Nick and Disney a fortune. Even if you didn't watch them, chances are you've still heard of them. Look, I cannot stress enough how much Cartoon Network was getting absolutely smashed in the ratings by their rivals. High School Musical, Drake and Josh, Sunny with a Chance, iCarly, Zack and Cody, Zoe 101, Breaking Bad, Hannah Montana, Ned's Declassified, and my favorite anime of all time, Cory and the House.
Already dead.
Their programming blocks were doing so well that it had dropped Cartoon Network's overall ratings by 30%. But Cartoon Network absolutely noticed and decided, if you can't beat them, join them. No matter how they approached it, this was an unusual jump for a channel specifically named for their focus on cartoons. But the ratings did not lie. They would need to find a way to appeal to that weird sweet spot of their target audiences, who think that they're too old to watch cartoons. And rather than get left in the dust, Cartoon Network would have to apply their own spin on things by creating gimmicky live-action shows to draw audiences back. The timing for this move was especially difficult to work with too, with nearly every major step in developing new shows hitting another wall. Their original plan was launching a series of teen-oriented sitcoms to directly compete with Nick and Disney for their audience share. But that stopped once the 2007 writer's strike happened, lasting for 4 months from November 2007 to February 2008. Yeah, not starting off on the best foot here. Cartoon Network did their first major pivot, shifting from sitcoms into two different genres: reality shows and game shows. That fixed their writing problem for the most part, but they would have to think outside the box and experiment with doing scrappier, more hands-on programming. And by that, I of course mean they'd have to rip off popular shows from other networks, alter them for a younger audience, and see what sticks. All of this brings us to, drumroll, Henri, a short-lived and ill-advised venture into live-action TV shows. Genuinely, a midlife crisis is the only honest way to explain how it came to exist as a programming block. And spoiler alert, it didn't work.
Whatever, it's 2009!
Folks, I'm not looking forward to this one. I was there for this one. And let me just say up front, I had some trouble finding complete episodes for most of these shows. So prepare for a lot of Google images, okay? As far as I can tell, none of them are available for streaming at this point. So all of the footage I found to discuss them came from re-uploads. So apologies for the inconsistent quality here, folks, but it is what it is. So with all of that out of the way, it's time to get real and see what Henri had to offer.
And I've got explosions!
Real quick, this video is brought to you by Fume, the leader in flavored air. Folks, it's July. Yes, it's humid and I hate it. And I bet you all can already smell the grills and the charcoal grills. Yes, and also the propane grills. I'll tell you what, with these summer vibes comes summer flavors. And the flavor experts at Fume have a lot to say about that. Fume is an award-winning flavored air device that can help set you on the path towards better habits. Fume is entirely void of nicotine and vapor, so it can be used anywhere. It works by pressing the device to your lips, drawing air into your mouth, not your lungs, and getting a taste of Fume's tasty flavor cores, with crazy flavors such as raspberry lemon, cinnamon hearts, and my personal favorite, orange vanilla. And you can completely customize your journey to better habits. And all of these flavors taste pretty damn good. Listen to how satisfying this device sounds too. I love it. I use this in my recording booth like all the time for like fidgeting. I love it. Sometimes I have to remember that I'm recording audio for videos. Otherwise, I'll just keep fidgeting with it. Like seriously, all the time. I have to, I'm ADHD 100%. I have to stem all the time. It also feels great in my hands. It's really durable and premium feeling. Fume is continuously investing in third-party studies to ensure the safety of their products, especially when it comes to their plant compounds that make up their flavored cores. And they are always committed to funding more. So if you're ready to join over 500,000 others that have made the decision towards better habits, then now is the time to give Fume a shot. For a limited time, if you use my link at tryfume.com/Saberspark and use my code Saberspark, you'll get an awesome free topper when you order a Journey pack. I actually have one right now. I chew on it all the time. Again, that's tryfume.com/Saberspark or hit up the QR code on the screen. Thanks to Fume for sponsoring our video, and now back to the video. The first show on our list is The Othersiders. It ran from January 17th, 2009 to October 30th, 2009. Their premiere series for Cartoon Network Reel already took things in an unusual direction. You ready for this? The Othersiders follows a group of teenagers going on ghost hunting adventures in different locations to figure out if it's haunted or not. Spoiler alert, no, it's not haunted. It's not phasmophobia. All of the 23 locations they featured on the show are located in California. I'm guessing just to keep production costs down. But my favorite aspect of it is that their ghost hunting strategy room is clearly a producer's 3-car garage with some laptops set up on a folding table. It feels very much like something a TV executive would think, yeah, that's good enough. It seems like they wanted something warehouse adjacent for atmosphere. But obviously, we're not going to pay for it. These kids don't even get the dignity of using a spare guest room for their first live-action show. And yes, this will become a pattern going forward. As a show, The Othersiders is incredibly boring. The most money they spent on it was for the infrared camera rigs. But that's about it. There's honestly nothing about it that would interest kids over just watching a regular paranormal show like Ghost Adventures. The content is pretty much the same in terms of setup, but they managed to make it so much more boring in comparison.
Oh my, stop, don't move. That chair is not here before.
Ghost hunting shows are relatively easy to stage, but their long-term success is dependent on the charisma of the host and exotic locations to intrigue viewers. I would normally never say this, but I really could have used some more Zach Baggins in here. Like, yeah, he's kind of weird, but he's got stage presence. Instead, the outsiders feel very safe to the point of being forgettable, and fails to actually scare the audience. But it still ran for 2 seasons, with a total of 23 episodes. But yeah, that's a pretty bad start so far. Next, we got Survive This. If you're ready to see kids braving the elements, learning survival tactics, and living off the land, then go watch Kid Nation instead. That show is fucking crazy, unintentionally hilarious, and I still don't understand how it exists.
I miss her. I miss my mom. I'm gonna go to the soda saloon, drink the root beer and get it off my mind.
But if you're looking for something less unhinged, Cartoon Network Reel put out a clone of Survivor and called it Survive This, which sounds vaguely threatening, but okay, whatever, let's go. Right from the start, the vibes are totally off here. The first episode opens with a staged bus crash, resulting in 8 teenage passengers teaming up to adapt to the wilderness surrounding them. So we're talking hunting, gathering, foraging, building a fire, finding shelter, the whole shebang. Alongside them sometimes is this dude named Les Stroud. He's a Canadian survival expert who had his own wilderness show called Survivor Man, which ran for 8 seasons. He functions as a guide and as the host of Survive This. He's also there to be weirdly threatening towards the contestants to make things more interesting and intense.
So that wreckage is now off limits. What you pulled from it is what you have to survive with.
And just so they know I'm serious.
Out of all of the shows on this list, Survive This is probably the biggest bummer of the entire lineup. I would be shocked if the kids involved weren't given some kind of compensation for therapy afterwards. Every single one of them looks absolutely miserable. They're clearly sleep-deprived, hungry, and minutes away from crying. Even the elimination process feels needlessly harsh. They only happen once their spirits are broken enough to make someone volunteer to leave. What's that, you giving up? Then get the fuck out of here. They shot 13 episodes in season 1, but only 10 of them made it to air in the US. You can buy the full season if you buy it on Apple TV+, but I otherwise couldn't find it on any other major service in the US. But if you have a Canadian VPN though, you might be able to see both seasons. Next, we got Brain Rush. Okay, so genuinely, this show is the strangest on the list. Brain Rush involves teens riding on roller coasters and having to answer trivia questions at the same time. And if that wasn't enough of a wacky twist for you, they only find out they're on a game show after they get on the ride.
Is Vin Diesel an actor or a product?
Actor!
Does Tom Brady play professional football or basketball?
Football!
So if you've seen Cash Cab before, it's pretty similar to that, but now with more screaming. Contestants go through 3 rounds of increasingly harder questions and more intense rides. The prize money per question increases each round, and if one of them makes it to the 3rd round, they can potentially win a cash prize of $5,000. Now, this one definitely feels the most gimmicky, because the gameplay is based around delayed response times from the roller coaster speed distracting players. But I don't know, there's really only so much you can do with something this specific. The budget for this show feels extremely limited in a very obvious way. Most of it seemed to go towards theme park tickets, shooting permits, and the host having a huge wad of cash on him the whole time to reward contestants. It sounds more like a Mr. Beast episode or something. Honestly, Brain Rush would have probably felt more at home on something like the Travel Channel, because at least then it could possibly focus on reviewing different coasters and theme parks at the same time. But no, even that sounds a bit too complicated. Brain Rush was filmed on location at Knott's Berry Farm in California, but only aired for 6 episodes before being canceled. There were 2 sites that have re-uploaded most of the episodes: YouTube and the Internet Archive. Notably, they're both missing episode 4. But independent of those versions, the show is now considered lost media. Next, we have Destroy, Build, Destroy, which is easily the best received and longest lasting show from the CN lineup. I gotta say, Destroy, Build, Destroyed had a pretty interesting premise. 2 teams of teens dismantle a piece of machinery and build a vehicle from the wreckage. Whichever team wins a challenge using their vehicle gets to destroy the losing team's project. Now, this is a pretty specific setup for a show, but I think the odd premise really helped it to stand out compared to the other shows. Now, it might have been weird, but Destroy, Build, Destroy was their most original idea. I found an LA Times article about the concept, possibly being inspired by the Discovery Channel show Monster Garage. There's definitely some parallels, but honestly, I'm gonna give it a pass, because the gimmick of destroying stuff takes center stage above everything else. The entire series was shot in the desert, probably so they wouldn't have to worry about property damage or noise violations. And it seems like most of their budget came directly from buying broken down cars at the dump. And of course, high-grade explosives from God knows where. Like I said, folks, this was a weird one, but I can honestly say it wasn't boring. Destroy, Build, Destroy was produced by Scott Messick, who previously worked on Survivor, and then Dan Taberski, who had worked on The Daily Show with Jon Stewart and has since produced a handful of acclaimed true crime journalism podcasts. Destroy, Build, Destroy also featured noted partying enthusiast and musician Andrew WK as the host. Guess what? I've actually met him before in real life, and he's really nice and very tall and also smelly, but I think that's like part of his partying brand. Like, he had a white shirt on and it was like all ripped up, but he was really nice. He was a cool dude, and he loved to party, and he loved Pinkie Pie. It's true. Anyway, the biggest plus I can give for DBD is they know the right way to get kids excited about learning STEM subjects by blowing shit up. Is it over the top? Absolutely. But it worked, goddammit. Destroy, Build, Destroy probably would have made some more sense on Discovery Kids, but hey, for what it's worth, it's kind of fun. The entire series has been archived on YouTube, so out of this entire lineup, I would recommend this one the most. Give it a shot. And then we have Bobby Says. Bobby Says features a child star, Bobby Thompson, who gives advice to viewers over footage of viral videos and through interviews with a celebrity guest. I wasn't initially familiar with Bobby, so I had to look up some of the roles he was best known for, which included Mr. T's son from Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs and Ronnie Shields from the movie Role Models. He also had an appearance in a really obscure Nick movie called Imagine That, starring Eddie Murphy. This is basically Cartoon Network's version of Tosh.0 for teenagers. But I'm gonna be honest, you can tell they by far had the most limited budget making it. They had 2 cameras, a sound guy, and a bunch of outdated videos to work with, and man, does it show. The segments don't have a laugh track, thankfully, but the videos they source for them do not hold up at all. It all looks like it's from 1992. Like they're the leftovers from the cutting room floor of America's Funniest Home Videos, featuring nothing that modern kids would care about. Plus, you can absolutely tell the writers gave him very little to work with. The pacing is painfully slow too. Just a ton of dry-ass cake with no frosting here. 2/3 of the CN Real lineup barely made it through season 1, with Bobby Says having the briefest shelf life of all, airing only 6 episodes before being canceled. And Now, this series was easily the toughest to source for videos for the lineup. It's not streaming anywhere, and the only episode I could find was episode 1 on Internet Archive. And then we got Dude, What Would Happen?, which was essentially a PG version of MTV's Jackass. Not to mention it was the second longest running show that made it past the See and Real curse. 3 teen boys, Ali, Jackson, and CJ, come up with a wide variety of scenarios to try out in real life. It could be simple, like leading a horse to water, or incredibly specific by making cool outfit designs using a flamethrower. Yes, that really happened.
Dude, I'm on fire! The flames are so high that I can't even see anything.
An honest question here, what was Cartoon Network's explosives budget for all of this? Granted, I don't think it's a coincidence that their 2 best performing shows feature fire and destruction. But did they have to call in the ATF for this? Because it really feels like a lot. Dude, What Would Happen had all of the violence and absurdity you would expect for a show meant for preteen boys. But it lacked the genuine chemistry between the cast and crew that made Jackass so memorable. Now, this show was probably the most ahead of its time, though, because many of the stunts they pulled would work even better on a site like YouTube. Like Mr. Beast and all of his guys, this is what they basically do nowadays. Each of the main guys feel more like modern YouTuber stereotypes. They're loud, obnoxious, constantly mugging for the camera, and willing to do a lot of reckless stuff for views. But Dude, What Would Happen feels different because of the amount of network money put behind it. Plus, I can see the appeal. They do a lot of destructive crap that most parents would hate to see their kids recreate. They do the whole "kids, don't try this at home" disclaimer. But come on, you know kids were causing havoc in the backyard after watching this show. Give me the lighter gas can, I got this. But one thing I could not ignore was the crew involved. There's a lot of lingering adults in the background wearing lab coats who are obviously there for safety reasons, but they don't really, get to become characters in the show as far as I can tell. Every single bit is oriented around the guys doing weird stuff, and sometimes a lab dude pops up for a few video frames. This show is loud and can be annoying at times, but they knew exactly what their audience wanted. Too bad that wasn't the case for the rest of the lineup.
Let's go do it!
See the premiere of Destroy, Build, Destroy, Saturday, June 20th at 8:30. Part of the brand new See and Real on Cartoon Network.
So that leads us to the main question of this video. What went wrong? To me, the biggest issue with this kind of programming block is due to Cartoon Network's identity as a company. Both Nick and the Disney Channel have had a wide variety of cartoons and live-action shows airing on them since the beginning. Game shows, sitcoms, sketch comedy. Both of Cartoon Network's competitors had the chance to experiment with other formats in a way that did not feel forced. But Cartoon Network's branding is kind of a double-edged sword. It's strong and memorable, being cartoon-centric from the start. But they committed to that mission so effectively that their identity was tied to showing cartoons, but not much else outside of that. So anything that deviated from that formula was going to be received differently by audiences. Many of these shows were critically panned and short-lived. Fans disliked them, critics hated them, and with a few exceptions, they're surprisingly hard to find online. Despite that, I wouldn't say all the concepts they tried out were bad ideas exactly. Okay, fine. Mostly, but not entirely. Some good did come out of it. I noticed quite a few comments on episode re-uploads for Destroy, Build, Destroyed stating it got them into studying engineering as kids, which is very cool to hear. But outside of that, See and Real remained unfocused and lacked the wide appeal needed to last multiple seasons. Mostly, it was just a really confusing move by the company as a whole. After going over all of the shows, I think it's pretty clear what the biggest issue was here. So many of these shows were just so boring. The majority of the shows involved in See and Real felt too derivative and safe to really stand out on a channel known for having a ton of personality. Instead, they just went with every predictable trend from the time period, but managed to make them boring. only 2 of the shows included in See and Reel lasted for more than 1 season. Dude, What Would Happen, and Destroy, Build, Destroy. Both of them made it to 37 episodes in total, and eventually came to an end on the same day, September 21st, 2011. Even if they felt out of place on Cartoon Network as a whole, there was enough of a hook there to keep viewers engaged with the premise. If you're gonna use basic cable money for violence and explosions, let alone on a show intended for children, hey, you might as well go all out. Well, at least in the explosive departments. And that is what both of these shows accomplished. See and Reel was at this weird crossroads from the beginning. Most shows were firmly of their time. Some shows wound up being ahead of their time. But all of them were completely out of place. Shows like Destroy, Build, Destroy and Dude, What Would Happen translated much better onto platforms like YouTube. Those show concepts worked a lot better online, with smaller creators building their own niche channels towards a specific audience. Because the network's approach for See and Reel felt way too insincere and corporate-minded to succeed naturally. After the See and Reel block was canceled, they tried to venture into scripted live-action shows during 2010, but that did not really work out either. Both Tower Prep and Unnatural History were canceled after season 1, finally signaling to Cartoon Network to accept defeat once and for all and get back to their roots. This was also immediately before they had premiered some of their most successful shows in their entire history, like Adventure Time and Regular Show. It was a beautiful return to their roots, and it felt like the birth of an animation renaissance. So while it might have been an experimental time for Cartoon Network, I'm glad they finally made their way back to the drawing board, because cartoons are what they do best. Hell, I grew up with them in the 90s, and I still watch them to this day. Actually, what if I ranked every cartoon on Cartoon Network from worst to best? No, that would be stupid. Let's fucking do it. But give me some time, folks. This one will take a minute, but it will be worth it. Oh, wait, no. Does that mean I have to watch Annoying Orange? Is it too late to back out of this project?
OMG, Fruit Fanatics! We've got a super sweet treat for you today. A full-length episode of my hit Cartoon Network show, The High Fructose Adventures of the Annoying Orange, and it's free! That's right,